Welcome back to another episode of The Voice That Sees. Today, I wanted to discuss the topic of grief and the complex emotion that it can be, as well as how it has so much to teach us and how life is actually constantly in transition. So, whether we're facing some type of loss, as in things like losing a loved one. For instance, I lost my maternal grandmother a few months ago, which I will be discussing today. Or if it's some type of metaphorical loss, for instance, divorce, the end of a career, the end of some type of relationship, whether it's a friendship, these things can, yes, involve changes in the physical dynamics, as in you're not speaking to this person anymore. They're not physically there in your life. And often there's something intangible, something that's more metaphorical, which is the loss of a former identity. And when we understand life a little bit more from this perspective of watching this former identity be shed, we can see that often it's not to transform us into someone new. Often it's actually helping us uncover more of who we are. And that process can sometimes be a little bit messy or chaotic or be kind of surprising along the way, which is what I wanted to go into today. So, a few months ago in January, I noticed that one day my laptop stopped working. And when you're in the jungle and you're living a more nomadic lifestyle, not having your laptop working is kind of a big deal. And it's not easy to find someone nearby to fix it, depending on what the issue is. So I noticed that within 1 week, I couldn't find anyone to really help me. And then I could have sent my laptop to the capital here in Costa Rica for someone to fix it there. But while I was spending time in meditation, I noticed that I was kind of being guided to take a break from technology. And again, this wasn't something that I was just like, okay, sure, let's take the break. When you have things to do on your computer, whether it's creating content, having client calls, all these things, checking emails, having a wider screen to do your work on, it's challenging to just say, okay, we'll just use our phone for the month or for the next few weeks and see how it goes. And yeah, it did end up being almost a month and a half using my phone as my primary source of technology. That happened, and literally a few other things happened, as in my purse broke, noticing different things kind of falling apart. And I'm thinking, what just happened? Like, why did all that happen within a few weeks? And what happened was there was a frequency upgrade. There was an upgrade in my consciousness. I had been doing deep healing with some of the shamans in Peru. And I noticed that even though things seemed to be shifting internally, the external reality still has some time to catch up. But when I noticed things like my MacBook suddenly not working properly and some of the other things that transpired a few months ago, then I knew that things were shifting. I just didn't know how. A few weeks after that, my maternal grandmother ended up passing away. And I want to share what got uncovered with faith and understanding the sacred mysteries of life, because I feel that the story can really open up to how we can't figure all these things out or understand why certain things happen until we look back in retrospect and see, okay, I can see the significance of that event. So one of them being that because I was using my phone primarily for business, for personal stuff, I wasn't using my computer. And so something I've been doing since probably 2014 is I've had my phone on Do Not Disturb. And it's on Do Not Disturb all the time. It's very rare that I take it off Do Not Disturb. So because I didn't have my computer working at that time, I was on my phone a lot more. And because I happened to be on my phone, I noticed that I received a text from a family member saying, hey, our family in India is going to call you. It looks like grandmother's passing away. You might want to see her. And sure enough, when I got on the video call with her, I saw that she was pretty much already there. She looked ill. She wasn't present. and she had something called death rattle or death moans. It's when someone makes these certain sounds, and it's one of the things that you can notice as a physical sign that someone is about to pass away or depart. And I've also had experience with this clinically working as a physician assistant in oncology, because I actually had to be trained in palliative care to help manage patients for end of life care, hospice, and moving through those transitions. And it was still eye-opening to see it happen to my grandmother and being present to some of her last breaths. I also can attest to the privilege that we have to be able to see our loved ones even from far away due to technology. So there was a lot that was uncovered in terms of relationships with technology and how sometimes it can be overwhelming and other times it can be truly helpful. So that happened. And what happened afterwards, I attended her funeral through WhatsApp. It was through video. And it was so surreal seeing her cremation. The next day, waking up, going to teach yoga, witnessing my path cross with different people along the way, and noticing how different people held space for me. And the way God, faith works in its miraculous ways and how we are always supported. One of the things I have been touching up on a lot more, especially for anyone who's in a space of caregiving, whether you are a caregiver, a mother, a father, some type of provider of care, where you're used to being nurturing, providing empathy and compassion. This could even be therapists, social workers, counselors. These kinds of roles don't just take strategy, as in, what are you doing to help this person? It also involves a lot of emotional intelligence and what you are giving that's often unseen: your empathy, your compassion, your love, your kindness, genuine loving kindness. And when we're not exactly careful with our own capacity and honoring our capacity, then we kind of leak our energy, and things like not knowing when to say no or feeling guilty for saying no and then feeling depleted at the end of the day. Often, for those of us who have been in these roles, sometimes we may be afraid to ask for support and to tell people, hey, I'm not feeling the best today. I'm moving through this, and this is coming up so and so, and I'd really like for you to step it up here. However, something I noticed after this happened with my own grandmother is that the people who I crossed paths with the very next day, it hadn't even been 24 hours. The people that I crossed paths with the next day were such powerful space holders. And they didn't stop me from crying or from shedding tears. They weren't taken aback. They said, what's coming up for you? Thank you for showing this. Thank you for showing your vulnerability. I also ran into two women I haven't seen in a while who I sometimes attend church here with. And they shouted my name from afar, and I went over to speak to them, and they were consoling me. They prayed for me. And I genuinely felt it in my heart that these people really care for me and my well-being. And they're really sympathizing with me and what happened with my grandmother. And then there were a couple of more cases like that, to the point where when I came back to this property, there are several other homes here. And there were two other beautiful couples who were spending their time here in those two homes. And they were here for a month. So not only did I feel that I was supported that very next day, I was surrounded by their warmth and care and love for the next month. And I feel that if my attention had gone to my laptop and doing the things I was doing before, constantly creating content or rushing when I had any creative idea, feeling like I need to get to it right away, bringing my laptop pretty much everywhere that I was going, coffee shop, just bringing that New Yorker, New Jersey energy into the jungle, where I felt that I constantly needed to be on, constantly doing something and executing. And here life was presenting a moment for me to pause. And it was a really beautiful time because it wasn't a time of doing nothing. It was a time of receiving aligned support It was a time of being present with my emotions. It was a time of honoring my grandmother and the beautiful legacy that she has left behind. This legacy of love, this legacy of unconditional love, and a legacy where she genuinely poured into so many people's hearts, not just within her own immediate family, but extended family, her village. There were a lot of people who were crying at this funeral saying, who's going to care for them the way that she cared for them? Who's going to feed them and love them the way that she did? Obviously, that's their way of processing grief. And yet I could feel the impact that she had collectively. And she was a little itty bitty woman, 4'11", maybe 4'10". But it's the tiny ones you got to watch out for. They're feisty, they're powerful, and they're very real. I found that one of the things I kept coming back to when I was in the fresh moments of grief in the days and weeks after that moment was that my grandmother was very genuine, and she said things in a straightforward manner. She didn't really hold back. And even if it was tough love, it was still love. She was still saying these things from a place of love and truth. What that experience showed me, and what I've seen countless times when I've been able to support patients and letting go, as well as watching their families and their loved ones process their own grief, is that yes, there is this period of grieving a person and missing their presence, their physical presence in our lives. Also, a lot of it is our own identity lost, this shedding of this former attachment to that person, to that way of being. I've seen this even with parents who have lost their children. Yes, they're grieving the loss of their child, but also they're feeling that sense of loss of identity, having ingrained or molded an identity around being the caretaker for that child, being the provider. And now some of that comes undone. And some of the things that come up, yes, their emotions and also their questions, as in, now who am I? And what do I do now? What's going to happen now moving forward? Who do I become in this process? What's going to happen? And something that gets uncovered while moving through grief is if you can really sit with it and let yourself move through the waves. Obviously, it can still happen over time. So it's not just like something you think that's going to happen in this structured period for a month and then you're done. It can happen randomly sometimes. Grief is so powerful because it also helps you open up to more unconditional love. As you're able to feel the sorrow, perhaps even some regret and remorse, as you're allowing that to move through you and be cleared out of your heart, some of those densities, then you're also able to feel more joy, more peace, and more love. And as you're feeling more love, you also receive it from others too, because it's as though that place of tenderness and feeling so vulnerable is the very place where you can open yourself up to that crack of light that wants to come through, the way Rumi talks about, the poet. And as we're able to do that, it's as though we can just feel it. This light, this love has been there this whole time. It's just been covered. And then something might have happened that kind of just cracked and pierced it through. And then it's like it floods out of us. Not always easy, especially initially, but we're powerful humans and we can move through it. Something I've also uncovered on the other side of moving through that experience is that grief also helps us recognize that we are powerful. And I think many of us are afraid to tune into this idea that we can hold the weight of transitions while still wanting stability, or that we can be here in the void and moments of uncertainty and still have faith that there is some certainty, perhaps not within us, not within our own minds and the way that we think, but having faith and using that faith to have or develop some type of divine certainty, if that's even a thing, that there is a plan, that God has a plan, and that whatever we are moving through is shifting us into more of our purpose, into more of the reason we are here on this planet. And perhaps when our ancestors move through their own transitions, they're helping us to unlock those gifts that have been passed on through our lineage, as well as the wisdom that wants to come through, and to help continue to pass this wisdom along for generations to come, as well as for the collective, because every lineage, every person has some medicine that they're here to share at this time. And again, it's really incredible to witness. So why are we afraid of our power? So many of us, why do we constantly doubt? Why do we ask other people, what do you think? What do you think about this? Or I'm not really sure. What do you think I should do? And we all do this. I've done this for a large part of my life. I'm still moving through different wobbles and seeing myself walk through the fire and come out on the other side. And it's like, okay, I'm learning the lessons and seeing what is being purified in the fire. And yet there's still this curiosity as to why this fear of honoring the power that moves within each and every one of us. This kind of power that I'm alluding to is personal power. It's also recognizing that we have sovereignty over our emotional states, and we can go through emotional waves, but we don't have to let those emotional waves drag us down or to make us imbalanced in any way. And that even if we're moving through times that can feel chaotic, we can still find that inner anchor within us. And in moments of doubts that are a little bit louder or more amplified at any given moment, we can surrender to God or a higher power. And I personally don't believe we need to wait until those moments to surrender to a higher power, but so often, more often than not, sometimes we just really want to do things our own way, and that sense of control, thinking that we have a sense of control, can hinder us from leaning into the very thing that actually wants to propel us in a beautiful direction, to fulfill our mission, our purpose, and our destiny for why we are here on this planet. And I do believe that part of power is also intertwined with self-mastery. And this is why emotions such as grief, they can be disconcerting in the moment. And yet they have something powerful to teach, which is that if you can hold that amount of grief, you can also hold that amount of love and beauty and harmony and peace, which is something this planet really needs at this time. How this relates to our life transitions as humans is that in any given moment, we are moving through change. Change is a constant. This is a universal law. However, there are certain periods in life where we might go through certain changes that are a little bit more drastic, and they can even be milestones. Marriage, the birth of a child, a new home, a new venture, a new business idea, a new living situation, a new location, a new country that you've moved to. It could be so many different things, even moving into engagement, going before the marriage, that's still a milestone. And so these things create changes, both in our internal system, in our inner world, as well as in our outer reality. And while we move through those changes, there can be a burst of emotions that come up. We can notice that certain thought patterns that we've held on to for a long time suddenly just don't have that same grip on us. And we might be inviting in new thought patterns, or even having these thought patterns that we're like, where did that come from? I wasn't used to thinking like this before, but it's as though a new world is emerging and trying to come through us. And I feel that this is why holding some of the more challenging emotions, whether it's grief, anger, resentment, though it's not easy, it's not something we want to do as humans, it can be really powerful to be able to navigate that. And using this awareness, as well as regulating our nervous system, expanding our capacity to feel more, so that we can also hold more pleasure, more expansion, more abundance and beauty, and more love and joy and peace. And so this does take self-mastery. It does take power, and honoring that power is not something that we are here to be afraid of. It's actually something that we can unlock and realize, yes, we're adaptable as humans. We're also really powerful co-creators. And we do have the power to move with the transitions and to feel a new world being birthed through us, so that a new world can then be birthed in our reality. Whether you want to call it new earth a new world, a new physical reality, we are also part of the co-creative dance and process. And when we are moving through some of these emotions, such as grief, if you think about it less as a challenging emotion and actually just think of it as a wave, I like to think of the ocean. The ocean to me resembles emotions because sometimes the ocean waves come crashing. Sometimes they're very gentle, very quiet. Other times they're loud. And I feel it's true to our varying emotional states. Some days the anger can speak really loudly. Other days we're just in this beautiful ebb and flow of peace. And yeah, what I love about the ocean is that the ocean is not going all over the place. It's not every day that we're seeing tsunamis and all these other things take over. She still has an anchor. To me, the ocean resembles a she. So she still has an anchor, whatever that may be for her. And the way I like to think of it is we can still have all these different emotional states. However, our anchor is our dominant vibration. For some people, it could be joy. No matter what they're feeling, they still know how to come back to their joy. For me, it's peace, even though there can be different things that are happening around me. And sometimes even I can be startled and feel angry and resentful and guilt, shame. These things can come up. I'm also human. The inner center that I try to come back to, that I know is always available to me or for me, is peace. And all I have to do is move through whatever is moving through, just allow it to do its thing and know that that center is still available inside of me. Just like the other things I'm experiencing, peace is still there. And once I decide to return to that, it usually unfolds. That takes power because if you think about it, sometimes with emotions, especially when you're not feeling so level headed, and that can happen, especially when you're going through any emotional waves, you can go towards any one end, whether it's feeling fiery and just firing off rants, blaming, shaming, which is part of the human saga, the drama that can sometimes come up. Or on the other hand, it can be repressed and then we just don't speak about it and just pretend everything's fine. And neither one is truly healthy for people. The healthier thing is actually to be able to process the emotions, to feel them, and then notice the power that gets unlocked. And you're not necessarily doing it to see how powerful you are. It's more so riding the wave of your humanity to then notice that whatever is coming undone, whatever is moving through its own spiral is coming undone so that infinite potential and infinite creative potential can move through you so a new reality can be beautifully birthed onto the planet. And that can look like so many different things, whether it is a new venture, it could be a new relationship. Sometimes you might see this, people are moving through grief, and then suddenly you notice that someone's pregnant or someone has a new relationship, and you're like, you might think, well, did they move on really quickly? And not necessarily. Sometimes it's that in opening up their hearts to whatever they're experiencing, so much love then can come to the surface and emanate. And from that space, love becomes this powerful dominant vibration in their auric field. And so it makes sense that all these other beautiful things are coming their way as well. And I feel that this is really relevant to people who are moving through transitions, whether, again, it's divorce, a breakup, the loss of a job, the loss of an identity related to some type of career path. It can be so many different things. And if you can move through grief while feeling your faith being there to support you, trusting in your faith, and really surrendering to whatever is happening that moment, that state of acceptance and accepting your life as is often what helps to catapult you onto a new timeline. You can't bypass this process. You can't just say you're going to force yourself through this grief. You need to put yourself through a retreat and you're just going to move on to another timeline. It often takes subtle changes on a day-to-day level, allowing yourself to move through it and accepting where you are in order to be able to co-create a new reality. And when you can accept it, and I mean truly accept it, not faking the acceptance and still being in some parts of denial, but truly accepting whatever has happened and allowing the wisdom to come unlock through you, you'll see a new identity emerge. And often when those emotions are flowing in and out, you actually are able to reveal more of your authentic self, more of the true you. which is an ongoing process of our evolution as humans on this planet. And it's so beautiful to witness some of the bigger changes that happen through these life transitions. Right now, I feel that there are many changes happening on our planet that we cannot deny or ignore. We can't just pretend we're all in the celebration mode and then just kind of put what's happening in other countries in the background and kind of just muting or turning the volume low. Because the reality is, yes, we are here to celebrate our lives and our existence. We've been given a beautiful planet and a beautiful life, each and every one of us. That is my belief. And we cannot deny the suffering that some people have entailed. Each of us has had our own individual suffering, and yet there are some places on this planet and some people who have been underprivileged, who have been given circumstances that could be deemed unfair, unjust, even though we have come so far as a species. And if you're someone who's empathic and you deeply feel, that voice, that inner knowing of we need to be a part of this change, we need to help instate positive change on this planet. And it can't be through trying to control our external realities or trying to force anything. It has to be through our own internal shifts. That call is probably getting stronger at this time. And if it is, I want you to know it's a beautiful thing. It means that you're really in touch with your humanity. You feel something so deeply that you know that this shift has to happen both individually and collectively to ascend to higher states of love, harmony, balance, and peace for all, not just one country or a couple of countries or a certain political party. It has to be for all. And that outside the labels and constructs that we've created in our systems, in our political parties, religions, all the things that have been used to, yes, create some type of structure, but also has created some division that we just can't ignore. Clearly, we can't see it being ignored on the planet at this time. Just know that it's helping us to move into unity and union within. And as we look at some of these disparities and also notice where we might be holding on to differences as though it's a negative thing, where we may be using judgments to separate ourselves from other people, if we can send more love to those parts of us and remember that we are whole to begin with. Even the grief, it's not there to destroy us. It's actually there to resurrect us into more of our light, more of our love, more of our acceptance, self-acceptance, which then helps to accept other people. The more you start to feel and embody it, you start to feel more united within yourself. And the more you feel united within yourself, the more united you feel with others. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to be on board with what you have to share or that people will agree with everything you say. It doesn't mean that you won't have people who want to retaliate against what you shared, even if it came from an innocent place. It means that you're able to come back to love within, that you're not focused on what people are saying. You're not focused on people's approval or lack thereof. You're focused on spreading this love, spreading the riches of your inner world, whether it's your wisdom, the knowledge you have, the skills you've attained, using that in service to the highest good of all. And again, that takes power, because when we're not tuned into our power, we're thinking, well, do I really have what it takes? Would I really be able to share this? Who, me? Why would I be the one to share this? Who would come attend this? Who would buy this? All these things can come up. And yet, to stand in your power is not to deny the doubts or try to erase them. Oftentimes, what you'll find is the doubts can still be there. You're just learning that your power, the power that moves within you, and also God's trust in you and his faith in you is stronger than any doubts. And that alone can often be enough to feel empowered, to keep going, to fulfill the mission that you have been assigned. And I know I've been talking a lot about this, and I will be speaking to this a lot more because so many people are questioning their career paths. And I feel like this is also tied in with grief, because if you're someone who's been on your career path for a very long time and you're starting to change at, let's say, for instance, 40, 50, 60 and beyond, it doesn't matter if the retirement age has been 65 or whatever it is. People still want to change their lives in that decade. And it doesn't mean that they can't do it. Absolutely not. Of course they can do it. This idea of fulfilling a destiny that's bigger than what we would have thought of as our human goals is beyond what we can sometimes even think of in our own mind. Something that gets planted in our heart and our soul from this higher power. For me, it's God. It completely comes from God, moves through us, and then we feel it in our bodies. And it's like, whoa, what is this? And at times, it might be something we don't even want to do. It could be something that just seems so ridiculously big that it's like, who would I be to actually fulfill this and co-create this? And that's when the ego, it's not that we shun the ego or try to move it to the side, ignore it, but more so trying to integrate and remind ourselves that this is something that landed in our heart and our soul for a bigger purpose. AKA, it's not for us really. It's actually for the collective. It's to serve. It's in service. And when we do that, who would we be to deny the creator's work in us? The one who created the planets, our galaxies, the cosmos, the stars, and beyond, to places we haven't even seen yet. Who would we be to deny the gift and instrument he has instilled in each and every one of us in our unique way, in our unique expression? Now, when you think about it from this perspective, it kind of makes you take a step back and think, whoa, I didn't think of it that way. And that kind of place, it's not that the doubts just suddenly go away or that they disappear, but it's here to remind us that the light that is within us, it's so strong that it has a power to take whatever has been hidden in the darkness, whatever we may not have wanted to feel. Not that grief or anger, resentment, rage are wrong, but just that these are challenging emotions, things that we might not always want to be looking for or seeking to feel. And yet when we have those moments to feel them, if we can sit with them, if we can also surrender some of the more challenging things to God, we can see that we're not here to do it all alone. And I feel that in having moved through this transition with my grandmother, literally within the next 12 hours, I was able to see how many people want to support me and hold space for me and share their compassion for me. And I knew that was my grandmother at work and also God showing me, hey, this is a loss of an identity. It was a loss of an identity for me of trying to do things by myself, thinking that I need to do it all alone, or who would even want to support me, or that I'm not supported. That was a limiting belief I had that was running in the back of my mind. And when I was able to see that that wasn't true, that God is so merciful that I didn't need to strip that belief for me to witness a change in my reality, and that it was something for me to acclimate to, that miracles are always happening. And so the message is just know that wherever you are in your life, if you are moving through a transition, if you are currently in a void, there are things happening for you. They're just happening behind the scenes. And just because they're happening behind the scenes doesn't mean they're not happening. It means that they're transforming, they're being transformed in a way that you wouldn't know how to. And that takes courage and bravery to say, hey, there's a lot coming up. I can do my part in alchemizing and transmuting some of this. However, some of this, aka a lot of it, if not all of it, I have to give to you, because there's just some things that I wouldn't even know how to transform. And that sense of humility and truly giving up or relinquishing control in those moments is actually the opportunity and the opening for miracles to arrive. They were already there, but we had to relinquish control so that they could arrive and we could receive them. Know that you are supported, and know that at this time, many people are feeling that they are here to share something bigger than they've allowed themselves to offer to the world, to humanity, to this planet. And if you're feeling that these messages resonate with you, know that there is deeper significance in even what you might be thinking in your head around this. And so it means keep going, keep moving forward in ways that feel good for you, in ways that bring more abundance and harmony and love onto this planet, in ways that are life-giving and bring you more joy, that make you feel, of course I'd be doing this. And for the times and moments that you don't feel that you know, if you're going through periods where you might feel that you are grieving the loss of maybe a breakup, a loved one, whatever it is, just know that it isn't a loss. It's a transformation. It's energy being molded and shifted into something else. And whatever it is will be beautiful. I just don't know what or how that will look like for you. And truthfully, it's neither of our jobs. That's the work of our Creator. The more you can allow yourself to be with these emotions and witness your power rising, you can use that power, that fuel, that creative energy to create beautiful movements on this planet. Not just fulfilling your mission, but creating a revolution, a movement of love, of beauty, of harmony, of balance, of peace for all people, all beings, to co-create this beautiful legacy of love. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Voice That Sees, and I look forward to sharing more wisdom on the next episode. Take care and stay blessed.